I just have to know, where did this come from? I have a feeling as a marketer, there was a deep need that you were seeing. And I have to know where this idea came from.
Sure. So I'll share the fun piece of the story, and then I'll break down the strategy of it as well.
Awesome.
Because I know that'll be really relevant and helpful for all your listeners. So I think being in the marketing space and doing content marketing for BuzzSprout for 4 years, doing digital marketing for 6 or 7, you see a lot of advice and you see a lot of trends. Okay. And so a lot of the advice tends to be towards the entrepreneur, because just practically that's the person that's spending money on the software or the tool or the course to get the results they want, which is, how do I make more money online? But rarely is the advice, what's in the best interests of your customers, of the people buying that course, of the people going through your funnel, experiencing your website. And I was just kind of like fed up that there wasn't more resources out there talking about how to actually market with integrity, because it's totally possible. And you actually make more money if people feel like they can trust you and that you're not just trying to screw them over all the time. And so that's where the idea for Honest Marketing came from, was let's just start highlighting the people that are doing this the right way, that are building businesses the right way on top of integrity and values, and really breaking down the systems and the processes that businesses can use and marketers can use in order to get similar results that they would in a performance or a pay-per-click model, but with a more holistic, service-oriented approach towards your clients and your customers. And so you're thinking about your brand and what people know you for and the reputation you have in the space. And you're thinking about how to actually do good in the world with your podcast. It's not just about making money, but it's about doing something that's worthwhile. And so that's where the spark came from, just like this desire to say, you know what, we're gonna shift the narrative here. It's not just gonna be about how do we increase your opt-in rate by 2% by creating some fake scarcity and a countdown timer that doesn't do anything to try and give people to get you their credit card before they even know that they want the thing. It's like, let's just get rid of all that and go back to, how do you solve real problems for people in their lives and help them feel seen and heard, and that they can trust you to take care of them in the journey? Like, let's just get back to that. And so that's really what it is, but in a online world. So breaking down content marketing, digital marketing, paid ads campaigns, all that stuff. Strategically, why it makes sense for me to do this podcast, because being at BuzzSprout and being in the podcasting world, there's never a lack of things to talk about, especially if you love to hear yourself talk. And so it's like,
why were you looking at me when you said that, Travis? Come on.
I was looking into the camera because I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's where you look at the camera. You don't. So, but podcasters love to talk. It's why we do it, right? If you didn't like to hear yourself talk, you wouldn't do a podcast. But so my new business venture that you kind of teased, I launched a podcast production agency called Honest Podcasts, and it's helping values-oriented business owners and entrepreneurs create content marketing that aligns with their business values but helps drive performance for their business. And so that is what I do as an agency. That's my service in the marketplace. Is you have a business, you want to make an epic podcast, I can do that for you. So then the podcast was not only a way for me to lead with my values and to attract people that would resonate with that. They're like, yeah, I shouldn't have to sell my soul in order to make money online. Like, there has to be a better way. And so maybe there could be a connection there. But then by using it as a platform to interview potential clients, then it's much easier to get someone who's in a position at a company that would be interested in a service like mine to give you an hour of their time. It's very difficult to do in like a cold call or a cold email sense, to be like, hey, I do this great thing. Can I get an hour on your calendar? It's like, no, I got my own life. I got my own stuff going on. But if I extend an olive branch and say, I would love to bring you on to talk about these 3 things that I know you're an expert in, and highlight your expertise and what your business does to my audience. And this is the values that we share and the connection that we have. Now we have an entire hour to build rapport and to build a relationship. And now I have your contact info, and we've actually had a dialogue and a conversation. Right. So now if it does make sense and you're like, actually, this has been a great experience. I have enjoyed being on your podcast. What would it look like for you to do that for us? Like, what would a podcast for our company look like? It's a very natural next step. And so strategically, using the podcast, not just a way of serving people, which it certainly is. And most of the people that listen to it will never give me money. And I'm really excited about that. But it's also a great vehicle to connect with people that would otherwise be unreachable, as a way of also growing the business as well. So that's how the podcast came together.
So there you go. You have his whole strategy there. It's all honest. It is so straightforward. But this is the thing that I love about this model, is because you're not trying to like bait and switch people and say, hey, we should do this. I think that a lot of people, especially for my show, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, having run several podcasts, it's like, you can feel that sliminess in a pitch where it's like, ooh, I would love to come on your show, or we'd love to have you on our show, and this and that. So I think that this is such an incredible approach if executed properly. And Travis just gave you all the things. It's all about just leading with integrity. But I have to ask, is there like this one awful experience that you ever had with marketing that like really comes to mind, that you're like, oh, if I ever had a platform or an opportunity to right this wrong, like, is there anything that's coming to mind?
Oh, 100%. And I actually share this in the first episode that I do for the show, when I break down my laws of honest marketing. Mm-hmm. And one of the laws of honest marketing, which I totally made up, but you know, they're written in semi-stone, and if other people take it, I trademarked it. So you heard it here. Is actually a riff on the PETA pledge, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And it's, can you say no humans were harmed in the marketing of your product or service? Can you actually stand behind that and say that is the standard we hold ourselves to? Not just does our product help people, but in the process of learning about what we do and in the process of becoming a customer, can we say that we did not harm them in any particular way? Lean into a trauma in their life to twist the knife and say, here's a big problem, let's make it bigger so you'll give us money. And for me, the story you're referring to that you kind of intuitively knew was there, I was doing a launch. I was doing a product launch. So also in my past, I had an online teaching ministry. I was selling courses, memberships, coaching, helping leaders start online ministries. And I was doing a big launch. And so I had several upsells built into it. It's like, well, if you want this program, you might also like this one, and you might also like this one. Just as a way of helping continue to serve people and give them more resources to help them with what they wanted to do next. But I had used some of these best practices, industry best practices, for maximizing your profit. For everybody
listening, he just put quotes around best practices. We have to make sure that was
yeah, air quotes, best practices.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, if you just like make this change, you'll get this much more money. And I'm like, that sounds great. Why would I not want that? So at the end of that launch, I immediately had people turn around and say, I need to cancel. I want my money back. Not because I don't believe in the product and what you're doing, but because of how it made me feel to buy it. Because of the pressure I felt to make a quick decision in the moment on something I didn't feel fully informed about. And if that is how the rest of this relationship is going to be, then this isn't going to be a fit for me. And that really stung, right? Because here I am trying to help people, especially in like a Christian space. It's like there's a lot of weight attached to that. And they're feeling like I'm being manipulative of their emotions in order to get more money. And so that's really stuck with me. And I think that was really a key pivot point for me, where I said, you know what? There actually is a point in time where it's not worth it anymore, where that extra couple dollars, it's just not worth it to me, because there are other things that are more important than how profitable a launch can be or how profitable a marketing campaign could be. But I actually want people to have a positive experience of me and to have a positive brand affinity, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
Where whenever they think about me, it's always about Travis is here to help. And that's the only impression they get. And there's no sense of manipulation, of coercion, of just like persuading someone to make a decision that's not good for them, but just good for me. Like, I never want any of that to even be hinted at in anything that I do. But that came from experience. That came from a really sour taste in my mouth of, wow, this is what these incremental decisions made with the best of intent have led me to. Let me get as far away from that as I possibly can.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, because I'm imagining I've had a similar experience. And there's a visceral, like full body when you're reading these words from someone and you know that that wasn't your initial intention. And you had no way of ever thinking that that's what was happening on the back end for your customer. And then you see it, and then you look at everything in hindsight and you're like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I did. And you could say, I'm sorry 1,000 times. And of course, it's probably not going to matter to that person. But I think that you're doing such an incredible thing and taking it and making sure that other people know there's a better way and there's another way to do it. But I'm curious if, in looking back, like let's say you go back to that launch and someone's listening right now and they're just getting started and they're like, well, Travis, I don't know if I've ever done any of these things, but I know for sure I want to avoid them. Do you have any tips for if someone's laying out, let's say they're laying out a launch for the new year and they're looking at their podcast, they're looking at their website, they're looking at their emails and all the things that they're going to incorporate in there. Do you kind of apply the same principles throughout everything, or do you do very specific things for each different platform?
So I think it starts first with what is the filter that you're going to make those decisions with? Because that's the easiest, like simple solution. Mm-hmm. So because the techniques and everything will change, they change all the time, right? It used to be you have these big live launches and now evergreen webinars are back. So it's always kind of circulating and coming around. So I would think whenever you're thinking about a decision, whether you're writing an email, creating sales copy for a landing page, putting together a webinar, a pitch, ask yourself, how would I feel if I told my best friend to go through this process? Would they come out on the other side like, that's you, 100%. I felt you and your personality and everything you stand for through the whole process? Or would they come away thinking, wow, like that's not the you that I know? That is a helpful filter, because then that'll help you decide, like, should I put this countdown timer here at the top of the page to get more people to click on it? But I know like it's just going to reset on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Well, how would I feel if my best friend found out that she made a purchase or he made a purchase because the time was running out, but it just reset on just resets on Thursday? Yeah. And they found out about that. Like, would that negatively impact the relationship? Probably, right? So if you're going to have a countdown timer, have it actually mean something. So like, I think those, once you have that filter in place of, I don't want to do anything that would hurt my best friend if they were going through this process or hurt our relationship in any way, then that gives you the decision-making to know what to do, what not to do, what to emphasize, not emphasize. And then I think at some point also believing that some of it is just not going to be up to you. Like when it comes to a launch, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the numbers and dissect every little thing. And okay, this thing went wrong, so that's my fault. This thing went wrong, so that's my fault. I'll never forget, I did a launch in January for a product and I did $25,000. I did the exact same launch in June to twice as many people and only cleared $15,000, and it was better. So it's like, is that my fault? I have no idea, right? Things happen. Yeah. It's not always your fault. It's not always, and so once you accept that things are going to happen outside of your control, that allows you to just show up with a service-oriented mind and to say, whatever this is going to be, it's going to be, and I'm going to be pumped and excited that I'm taking incremental steps forward with wherever you are in the journey. I think there's so much pressure to just like have a big launch or to grow really quickly and be able to have these big numbers that, become case studies for other people. But most people that I know that are successful in the online space, they've been doing it for 10 years, 15 years. Yeah. And so it's not that they had this like one big launch turning point, is that they built up skills over time until they became the best at what they did. And then that's why people do business with them. So I think if you can have the patience to have small launches and to have, months where you just do like $100, but I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this not because I'm just trying to make money, but because I really want to help people. I'm excited about what I get to do. Then everything becomes a lot easier to be patient. Yeah. And you don't have to press as much. You don't have to try and squeeze every dollar out of everything. You can just say, I just want to make my imprints on the world with my business, and I want my clients and my customers to come away better for it. And if you can have the patience that, it doesn't have to be just knock it out of the ballpark, then that also allows you to feel really good about what you're doing too.